Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another episode of the Complete Marvel Rivals Guide. My name is Kearless, and if you don't know me already, I am a 2-time Peak Eternity player and continue to play this game to this very day. It's nice to meet you. This is the Complete Marvel Rivals Guide. It is a series where I will be posting every single day going over high-level concepts that you should be utilizing in your own games if you want to improve. My overall goal with this series is to help a ton of people to achieve their peak ranks. And without any further ado, let's get into it. On screen now, I'm going to put up the complete lesson guide, so if you guys ever wanted to choose a lesson that you're not super comfortable on, I'm going to put that on screen now so you can go ahead and pick one. Alright guys, this is lesson 30. We've gone from the basic improvement in hero identity all the way to the advanced decision making and the deliberate practice. Throughout the series, we've separated Marvel Rivals into individual concepts so they'd be easier to understand, but obviously, when you're actually playing, those concepts don't happen one at a time. They're all happening simultaneously. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you one high-level team fight at full speed, then we're going to go back through it, slow it down, and break down the decisions being made throughout the entire fight. Alright, I'm going to put the video on screen now, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit later once this is over. So before the fight even starts, both teams already establish what they want to do. They establish the situation. They think of the team comps. They explain themselves. What composition are you running? What composition is the enemy team running? And what does each team want to accomplish? This connects directly back to team composition in lesson 3. You'll notice that the blue team, aka VP, has an Angela, Cap, Hela, Namor, and Luna and Invis, while Na'vi has a Rocket, Star-Lord, Luna, Bucky, Venom, and Doctor Strange. So VP wants to play and distract the backline with both of their tanks, and then their supports and DPS can help shoot at the enemy team. While Na'vi, they want to try to contest this with their Bucky, their Strange, and their Star-Lord being able to follow up on the attacks on their backline, and then they can also do their attacks of their own with their Venom and Star-Lord. This also goes into your hero identity as well. You know, what is your job? And don't just say you're playing Hela or you're playing this character. Maybe you should be thinking at a deeper level as saying you should pressure their strategists, hold an angle, protect your backline, create space, and enable your DPS. This connects all the way back to lesson 2 that we've talked about previously. So in this case, the Hela that we're currently spectating, their job is to take an off angle and pressure the backline while the backline on the enemy team has pressure and has to be distracted by VP's tanks. And now we're going to talk about the win condition. So how does my team actually win this fight? Maybe it's eliminate the Luna, force a defensive ultimate, control the high ground, survive the initial dive, or just enable your team. And you want to establish that before anything happens. So in this situation, you can notice that VP has an Angela ult while they have an Hela and Namor team up. So what they are planning on doing is using that Angela ult not only to distract the backline by Angela ulting them, but also make sure that their frontline is not getting any heals, so that way they can win the frontline duel. And I want you to really think about your positioning and setup. So look at where everyone is standing. You know, think about where your cover is, where your teammates' cover is, how far you are from the enemy, and do you have an escape planned? The angles, who is playing the main angle, who has an off angle, or is there a crossfire that you need to worry about? There's also space control, and which team controls the important area, like who has control over the objective, and what space does each team actually want? You should also be thinking about rotations. If anyone rotates before the fight, ask why. I want to make sure that you realize that teamfights don't start when the first person starts taking damage, but the setup before the fight is actually part of the fight, and this can change so many things throughout the game. So I'm going to play a clip for you, and I want you to notice where VP is set up and where the other team is set up. So as you can see, VP was playing around the objective and Na'Vi was playing in a tight space because they wanted to counteract the dive, but the thing that they didn't think about was the Angela ult, which was their win condition. So realistically, they should have positioned themselves and set up in a safer spot. I want to mention that right before the engagement, you have to note some things to yourself. You have to note where are the enemies, who is missing, where are your teammates, what cooldowns have you used, and what ultimates should you expect. Connect this back to information gathering. This is also where you can talk kind of about threat mapping, and based on the information you have right now, think about what can actually kill you. Maybe the Spider-Man is missing, or the Psylocke has an ultimate, or the Punisher has a sightline, or just whatever applies to your actual situation. So I'm going to play a clip for you, and I want you to notice that the Angela actually turns around to check and make sure that her team is available for the follow-up when she plans on using her ult. Now just this little glance of information completely helps them determine when they should engage. So now I'm going to let the fight play a little bit, and then I'm going to pause when the important decision happens. So when the fight actually starts changing. This is going to be when the Angela ults, but another couple examples is like when someone dives or takes an angle or uses an important cooldown, gets pressured, or just simply uses an ultimate. This is where the initiative comes in. You want to note which team made the first meaningful move and who is forcing whom to react. So go ahead and watch this clip. So once this Angela ults, this is when they start using the initiative and they make the first meaningful move. They force Na'Vi to react, and they have to force them to adapt to their situation. And now, this is when the important abilities start getting used. So we're going to pause here and we're going to see what resources were exchanged. So for example, after this ultimate gets popped, the enemy Luna actually uses her freeze on the Angela. And now that the Angela knows that the enemy Luna does not have her freeze, she is able to run the enemy Luna down and kill that Luna. It is also important to mention that the Luna was farther away from the Bucky, and the Bucky already used his pool, so he could not pull the Angela back to where he is and then kill her. And now pressure attention is actually super important, and I want you to look where everybody is looking. This is a perfect callback to lessons 16 and 24, and maybe, this is not included in the video, but maybe if your Venom dives and 3 enemies turn around, ask, what opportunity did that create for somebody else? Maybe your DPS gets an uncontested angle, or your Vanguard walks forward, or their frontline loses healing, and someone else becomes isolated. Venom doesn't necessarily need a kill. He may just be simply creating pressure and taking attention. So in this situation, when the clip that we just watched, the Angela ulted and it took the attention off of her team, so that way her team could walk forward and shoot at the back line. Now, something else I want to mention is that the fight is going to constantly change, and at some point something unexpected is going to happen, like someone gets elimination, or somebody uses an ult, or a cooldown is missed, or somebody just changes their position. So I want you to think about what actually changed, and more importantly, does our original plan still make sense for us to continue? This connects directly back to adaptation, and maybe Luna was originally your target, but now she escaped, and now the Punisher is now isolated. So your target priority constantly changes, and it could change to that Punisher. So in this scenario, I'm going to point out that the Angela ended up ulting, and then the enemy Star-Lord ended up ulting after that. And they probably were not expecting the enemy Star-Lord to ult in adaptation to the Angela ult, but he did that so that he could zone off the enemy team and they wouldn't take the space. But instead of being scared and not walking out so they couldn't pressure the backline with the Angela ult, instead, VP chose to invis ult so that they could walk forward and kill the enemy team's backline because they knew they didn't have a support ult to counter it with. So this is actually an example of changing the target priority, because now this Star-Lord is actually the immediate threat, and they need to focus him out in order for them to walk up and shoot at the backline. It's relatively hard to see in this clip, but I'm still going to put the clip up, and hopefully you guys can pick up what's going on. So when you're thinking about your target priority and when you want to commit to a target, you should ask yourself, why this person? And I don't want you to just think, oh, they're low HP. I want you to go deeper. Maybe they're isolated, or their escape is gone, or their strategist can't see them, or maybe they're your win condition and they're the biggest threat on their team. And this all connects back to lesson 7 and how target priority changed because of everything that happened earlier in the fight. This is also a great time to mention the push and pull theory, and at different points of the fight, they have the advantage, and maybe they push, just like when they Angela ulted, and then maybe they used an enemy cooldown or they used an ultimate, just like in this case they used the Star-Lord ultimate, and now they have to pull back and wait for the Star-Lord to not be a threat anymore, and then they can go in and activate the fight and use their initiative. A couple of ways that you can know when to push and when to pull are: you should push when the enemy cooldowns are gone, when someone is low, when you have numbers, or when the enemy ultimate ended. And if they have the advantage, you want to pull back. Maybe they used an ultimate, maybe you're down a player, or maybe you're just low on resources. So push when you have the advantage and pull when you don't have the advantage. I want to also mention that these pro players are super good at predictive play. They always look for a moment where they can anticipate something. Maybe it's that they expect an escape, or they expect someone to use an ultimate, or they expect someone to retreat, or you know where a flanker is and you know that they're gonna appear. And it's not reacting to this from zero, it's quickly reacting because you already thought it was likely to happen. And that ties directly back to predictive play. So in this situation right here, the VP knows that Na'Vi has a Star-Lord ult. So what they're gonna do is, instead of using the Invis ult in order to walk forward, they're gonna use the Invis ult as a reaction so that they can survive the Star-Lord ult. Every single good team fight has a moment where the balance really shifts, and I want you to find your balance. So maybe the Luna dies, or the enemy team just uses 3 ultimates so they get the momentum, or your team secures the high ground, or someone gets caught without a cooldown. And I'm going to show you a moment where the fight becomes super favored for one team, and then I'm going to explain why. So I'm going to play the clip right now. So it happened relatively quickly, but you can see that VP ended up getting 2 kills, and through those 2 kills, even though one of them got rocket rezzed, they gained the momentum. So now it's a 5v6, and they should be more likely to win the fight. So once they gain the advantage, how do they actually finish this? There are many different ways, and honestly you could bring up so many different topics from this series, like trading, objective play, spawn advantage, and resource management. And I don't want you to just throw the fight by just chasing kills. If you're up players, you should take space. The control will exist, and then you can secure the objective, and then you might be able to stagger safely if that's appropriate. And winning the fight and closing the fight are 2 different skills. So as you can see, they still made the right plays. The Angela was able to go back to her supports, so that way she would not die, and if she died, it would have made the fight less favorable for their team. And the Hela ended up stunning the Strange ult, and she saved the stun because she knew the Strange would have his ult. These are just examples of that you still need to play smart even though you're closing the fight. Alright, now I'm going to replay that same fight, and I want you to think about all the things that we just talked about and all the smart decisions that go on in a regular fight at a high level. The important thing isn't memorizing every decision that they just made, it's understanding everything we've talked about throughout this series is connected. So positioning creates angles, angles create pressure, pressure forces cooldowns, cooldowns create opportunities, information helps you recognize those opportunities, threat mapping keeps you alive while taking them, prediction lets you anticipate responses, initiative forces the enemy to react, attention management makes those reactions harder, and resource management determines whether the exchange is actually worth it. It's all connected in one system. In lesson 1, the message was essentially, you don't improve by simply playing more. You improve through a growth mindset, deliberate practice, identifying your weaknesses, working on them individually, and then building habits. And now 29 lessons later, that's still the answer. You now just have 29 different areas you understand well enough to practice. So don't try to master this entire series tomorrow. Pick one weakness, work on it deliberately, and make it automatic, and then move on to the next one. If you've watched all 30 lessons, first of all, thank you, but more importantly, don't let this just become 30 videos that you've watched. I want you to actually take these concepts into your games and find what you're bad at, practice it deliberately, and come back to these lessons whenever you need them. This might be the end of the Complete Marbles guide, but it's definitely not the end of the channel. I'm going to be doing hero guides, gameplay, breakdowns, coaching videos, tier lists, other educational content. So please, please, please continue to support and keep clicking on my videos. I just want to do whatever you guys want me to do, and I want to make it so that you guys have videos off of what your topics that you guys want. So please don't be afraid to reach out. Please don't be afraid to contact me. You can either shoot me a comment or you can DM me on Discord if you have my Discord information. Also, I don't know if the Unranked to Celestial account is going to be complete before the time that I go into the next season, because I have tryouts and I have other things going on. So I might just scrap that series, even though I put like 30 hours of work into it already. It's whatever. But yeah, if there's anything that you guys want me to do, just let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be it for this series. Yeah, please click on some more of my videos. Thank you guys so much. If you like the video, please hit the like, comment, and subscribe. I love seeing you guys' comments, and I'm trying to hit that 100 subscriber mark, so please tell your friends. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.